Housemaid fired over leftovers. But the next day the truth comes out. When Maria arrived at the Grand Davenport estate that morning, she had no idea that this day would mark the end of everything she had worked so hard for. For 3 long years she had poured her heart into this house, cleaning, cooking, and caring for it as if it were her own. She had dedicated herself tirelessly, never once complaining. Yet all of that was about to be erased in an instant. The moment Mrs. Davenport stormed into the kitchen, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor, Maria knew something was wrong. The older woman's face was twisted in fury, her hand gripping an empty plate, save for a single lonely crumb resting on its surface. Her voice was like ice. "Did you eat this?" she hissed, her piercing eyes narrowing dangerously. Maria felt her heart pound in her chest. She swallowed hard. It was just a leftover piece of bread from the extravagant dinner the night before, food that was destined to be discarded anyway. She hadn't thought it would be such a big deal. I didn't think you would. You're fired." Mrs. Davenport snapped before Maria could even finish. "Pack your things and get out. Now." Maria stood frozen in place, her entire body stiff with shock. Fired. Over a piece of bread. After everything she had done for this family. Humiliation burned through her veins. She had sacrificed so much for this household, working extra hours without ever asking for a raise, stepping in when the other staff members were sick, even comforting little Sophie, the Davenport's daughter, when she had nightmares. And now, she was being discarded like garbage over a meal that would have gone to waste. Tears welled in her eyes as she gathered her few belongings and walked out the door. She had nowhere to go. Her wages had barely been enough to support her family, and now, with nothing left, she was completely lost. But fate, as it turned out, was not done with her yet. The next morning, as Mrs. Davenport sipped her morning tea, reveling in what she believed was her flawless household, a sleek black car rolled into the driveway. The sound of its tires crunching against the gravel was enough to make her look up, puzzled. Then the car door opened, and out stepped George Davenport, her husband, back home earlier than expected. But that wasn't the real shock. Behind him, standing tall despite her obvious hesitation, was Maria. Mrs. Davenport immediately put on a tight smile, though her fingers trembled as she set her teacup down. "George, what a surprise. I didn't expect you back so soon." She glanced at Maria, her eyes darkening. "You should know I had to let her go. She stole from us, George. Can you believe it?" For a long moment, her husband said nothing. He simply turned his head, his gaze locking onto his wife's with a sharp intensity. "Is that so?" he finally asked, his voice eerily calm, though there was a dangerous edge beneath it. "Maria, would you like to tell me what happened?" Maria hesitated, her hands clenching into fists at her sides. She could feel Mrs. Davenport's glare burning into her. But then, George gave her a small nod of encouragement. Taking a deep breath, she spoke. I ate a leftover piece of bread, sir," she admitted softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't think it was a big deal." George's expression darkened, his jaw tightening. He slowly turned back to his wife. "Leftover bread," he repeated, his tone growing cold. "That's why you fired the woman who has done more for this house than you ever have. The woman who has been more of a mother to our daughter than you." Mrs. Davenport's face lost all color. "She stole George," she sputtered, her voice rising in desperation. "We can't allow thieves in our home." George exhaled sharply, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Maria, I owe you an apology. You are not going anywhere." His voice was firm, unwavering. Maria gasped, her hands shaking. "Sir, I don't understand." George then turned, fixing his wife with an unforgiving stare. "As for you," he said, his tone carrying a finality that made Mrs. Davenport flinch, "I warned you countless times about your cruelty, about the way you treat people. But this is the last straw. Pack your bags. You're leaving today." Mrs. Davenport's mouth fell open. "You can't be serious," she cried, panic creeping into her voice. "You're choosing a maid over your own wife." George didn't flinch. "I'm choosing kindness, respect, and decency, things you seem to have forgotten. Maria has been the true heart of this home. And unlike you, she actually cares about people." Maria stood frozen in place, barely able to believe what was happening. Mrs. Davenport, on the other hand, was not handling it well. She sputtered, protested, begged, but it was no use. The decision had been made. And within the hour she was gone. For the first time in years, the house felt lighter. George turned back to Maria, his expression softening. "Maria," he said gently, "I should have done this a long time ago. You've been the glue holding this family together, and it's time you were treated as such. I don't want you to stay here as just a maid. I want you to be the head of the household staff, with a proper salary and a room in the main house. You deserve it." Tears welled up in Maria's eyes, but this time they were not tears of sorrow. They were tears of gratitude. Just yesterday she had lost everything. And yet today, she had been given back her dignity. That night, as she tucked little Sophie into bed, the child threw her arms around Maria, holding her tightly. "I'm so glad you're still here, Maria," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You're my real family." Maria closed her eyes, hugging the child back. For the first time in years, she felt like she truly belonged.